Welcome back to another Triple T Thursday, which might as well be what I say for this intro because this is a Shop Talk Tuesday on a Thursday, and I'm not Dennis Tyrell, but I am giving y'all a video on Thursday, which is typically his day. But you know, them's the breaks whenever you have technical issues. So we're releasing the video on Thursday. Well, I guess it could still be a STT. It's just a Shop Talk Thursday instead of a Shop Talk Tuesday. But anyways, we are working on the Dragon scaled kukri build in this particular episode. Of course, y'all have seen the thumbnail, so you know how far we get into this particular one. We're going to be working on a lot of the hand filing and stuff like that in this particular episode. So let's go ahead, let's jump into this one and get this thing knocked out. So before we start any of the filing, we need to go through and create the little groove, kind of like a fuller along the bottom of the scales. We're going to start that off with a cutoff wheel, a thinner one, and just create the groove. And then we're going to widen it with a slightly wider grinding wheel. So right now you can actually see that groove that we ground in right here, that kind of fuller area. Well, what's going to end up happening is where each scale dives into the scale in front of it, and what I mean by that is where it curves down into the back side of the scale in front of it, that section is going to be even with this groove, or pretty close to even with this groove. And then it's going to flare out till it gets to the back of the scale, and then you'll actually see more of that fuller at the back side of each scale. So it kind of goes away a little bit, then goes away a little bit, just like here towards the front where it's actually even with that fuller right there. So this is going to get filed back a little bit and tapered, and then each one of these other ones are going to have the same thing happen to it. But as of right now, you can see where this really dives down before it actually gets up to the front here. Now there's still plenty of work that needs to be done and filed right here and all these little areas. We're going to start filing. We're going to use a bunch of little needle files, these little guys right here, and different versions of them. And then we're going to be also using some regular files. These are all by Nicholson right here, a little round file that comes to a point, this flat file right here, and then a smaller mill bastard file right here. So we're going to end up filing that down. We're going to use this one to take away most of the material. We're going to use this one to take pretty aggressive. This one's a little bit finer, so it's not going to take off a bunch of material, but it is going to smooth things out. Then we're going to use these little needle files where we need to get into certain grooves and stuff like that. But for right now, we need to go through, start filing off material, hogging it off. We're going to start using this file and the other little flat file. With this phase that we're trying to do here, we do want to make sure that we're not accidentally filing on the blade side of this. Now we are going to grind in bevels and all that, but you don't want to nick this side of this fuller right here. You want to be filing, you can file over if you're going to be at an angle, but as soon as we start getting down into this little area, that's where it gets tedious, because we need to do little bits of filing right there. And that's where it starts taking a bunch of time. Just slowly removing material as we go. So as you can see right here, we're starting to dive down into this fuller area, and we're just going to get a little bit further than that. I want it to be about the depth, maybe a little bit shallower than this file right here. But all I'm doing right now is just working this little section down, and then we'll start fading it back up into the scale a little bit. We are going to be leaving texture towards the back side here, because that's a kind of a finishing point whenever we do the acid etch, which is kind of like a cool step within this process. But you know, we need to go ahead and continue filing here. We'll go ahead and file some on here and just kind of work our way back. We're going to be using this little round file quite a bit whenever we're filing into this front one, because we want to keep this kind of fuller, nice and round on the back side here. So we're just going to work our way in with the end of it. I like this versus one that's only the same thickness all the way through, because it really lets me get into little tighter areas. So now we just repeat those steps right there on to the next scales and go from there. Alright, let's take a quick break real quick. I got a package from Steve Jennings. If you don't know who Steve Jennings is, he's the guy who made my power hammer that I have right here. Now, he has sent me things in the past. I'm excited about this one, like really excited about it. He said he was going to send me a chunk of cable, and let's see how big it is. It's a little bit bigger than I thought I was going to be. So that is a bridge cable. Now, I thought he was only going to send me about that much of it. It's a lot more cable than that, and that's really cool. He actually welded on a square bar on the end to make it easy to start forging, and then welded the other end too. But this is off of a famous bridge from around the San Francisco area. If you don't know which big famous bridge is there, that's what this is from. I can't really say what it is, but pretty sure you'll have a good idea. Now, I'm excited about working with this. We're going to end up doing that in a future project, but we'll make some cable Damascus out of this and have some fun with that. Steve, thank you for sending this over. Now let's go ahead and jump back into the video, do some more filing. Let's get it. So now that we have this side right here filed for the most part, we need to switch it to the other side and start working on that one. Now, this is where we're gonna have to start matching everything up, and by that I mean all of these ridges, all these little cones or these little triangles that are right here. On this side, they're all kind of rounded. On this side, they're still pretty square. You can see where there's still marker on the sides here. But on this side, there is none of that. So we've got to go through and round everything. We've got to match up and actually make where the scales dive into the one in front of it, where the point of this little triangle that's at the top, that has to be centered into the scale in front of it. So we've got to be paying attention to, as we file this, to keep that actually centered going into the spine in front of it, or the scale that's in front of it. So that's where we're going to be going through, filing a little bit on this side, on the other side, vice versa. What I need to go ahead and do now is just round all of these into the scale behind it, I guess you could say. And then I'll be coming in here and doing some more filing. I've already done some of it on the top side, so really all I need to do is try and make things uniform. You know, right now the scales, where the scale goes into the other one on each side, those are already pretty even from both sides. Like I said, what we got to make sure of is that all of these going into each other are nice and even and are rounded the same way as they go back. So it's going to be a lot of filing, paying attention, looking at the contour, making sure we're keeping it contoured right, and we're just going to keep going in through all of this as we go. Some of y'all might be thinking, Eric, is it actually comfortable filing down here like this? And yes, it's actually more comfortable doing this than it is sitting on my chair and bending over. I can actually see what I'm doing here and really get after it. And then if this gets uncomfortable, then I'll sit up on the chair and do it from there. And then I'll just go back to this. Filing for as long as I'm going to be filing for all of this. Switching up positions and things like that are kind of mandatory, because if not, you just get real sore and you get real cranky because it's really hot outside. And no one likes filing for this long. Alright, so let's go ahead and get some close-ups of this thing. So now, of course, this is just where we're at within this phase of this. There's a few more steps that are, of course, going to happen to the scales. There's going to be acid etching. I still, of course, have more hand sanding to do, but for right now, everything is nice and even, where all of the scales go into each other. So all of that looks good. And you can see how there's nice depth where each scale goes into the one in front of it. Right there. So those are looking absolutely awesome. Now, like I said, there's still more work that has to be done to these. I've got to go ahead and get things like the little bit of filing around the hole there. It's going to be a very minimal amount, but a little bit there. And then of course got to get the bevels ground. And then we can go through and do the acid etching process, which is a lot more acid etching than you typically do to a knife build. Whenever we get to that point, you'll see what I'm talking about. But that right there is some dragon scales filed into the spine of a knife. Now, this is a lot more filing than you would typically have on a spine. Typically, it's just like a little design, a little like rose thorny design and stuff like that. This, of course, is quite a bit larger, goes down in there quite a bit more, so it takes a lot longer to get it filed. But it's going to look really cool in the end process, so it's really worth it. I think that this is going to be an absolute killer looking blade when it's all said and done. So that right there, though, at least gives you an idea of how I did all the filing in the actual challenge build that I did, where I did that Works knife, the World of Warcraft build. These right here I think are going to turn out super cool when they're all said and done. But y'all let me know in the comment section, do you like how this is turning out? If you do, let me know. Of course, make sure you give the video a thumbs up and all that jazz. Guys, thank y'all for coming by. Thank y'all for watching this. Make sure y'all come by on Saturday, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. That's Texas time. And check out the live stream where we'll be forging another build. So I will see y'all on Saturday. Y'all have an amazing day. Y'all stay safe out there, and I will catch y'all next time.